Alrighty, welcome back. This is video 2 in a 3-part series where we are writing a little Python script to get directions from the Google Maps API. Now, if you haven't watched the first video, this video won't make a tremendous amount of sense, so I'd recommend you start there. But if you recall, we were at a place where we were able to reach out to that server using the Google Maps module, which provided a wrapper for us that got us to that API, and we were able to get these directions for what we're looking at here is the return trip for Smokey and the Bandit, and it's all loaded up with HTML tags. So what we're going to do in today's video is strip these HTML tags out, and through that we're going to learn about another important concept. Let's take a look. Okay, the important concept that we're going to spend most of this video on is considerations to make when you are learning from or making use of other people's code that you find online. So this is some example code from stackoverflow.com, which is a phenomenal question and answer site for programmers. And this code happens to do exactly what we want to do, which is to take in those strings and strip out the HTML code. But there's a few things to consider. First and foremost, I didn't write this. And unless the author happens to be watching, none of you wrote this. So we need to give attribution to that person when we put it out there. The second very important consideration is security or safety, however you want to phrase it. It's very unwise just to run code blind without understanding what it does. So when you are taking code that someone else wrote, especially when it's just sort of out there and you don't have a relationship with that person, it is vital for you to take the time to understand what you're doing, and you have to make a judgment. You have to make a decision for yourself whether or not that's something you understand well enough to run without incurring too much risk. So I'm not competent to advise you in that, and you're going to have to sort of guide yourself in that way, but do your best to be judicious and try to learn from mistakes, I suppose. Vitally important, though, to understand code that you take from other people. All right, so how do we give attribution? Like I said, you're on your own with understanding the code, that it's safe and won't imperil the security of your computer. But how do we give attribution? We're going to look at a very specific instance here, and in general, there are going to be some things that can apply in other contexts. But from Stack Overflow, they have a pretty set way to attribute code that is given as an answer to a question. You'll notice if we go all the way to the page here that this is licensed under the Creative Commons Wiki license, and some rights are reserved. If we like, we can go ahead and read a very basic version of this license. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I can't tell you, what's legal, what's not with copyrights, but these Creative Commons licenses have been designed specifically to be easily read and interpreted by, the lay public. So it says we are free to share, copy, and redistribute the material in any medium or format. How about this video? Fantastic. We're allowed to adapt, remix, transform, and build upon the material. Good. For any purpose, even commercially. And the licensor cannot revoke these freedoms as long as we follow the license terms. Well, that's clear as day, but there are conditions here, and the conditions are that we give appropriate credit and indicate if changes were made, and that we also allow other people to share in it. So that's pretty simple. Stack Overflow has some specific instructions on how to give appropriate credit here. Here on the Stack Exchange blog, you can see that we need to visually indicate that the content's from Stack Overflow, and give a hyperlink to the original question, which I'm doing for you. Show the author names, and I've given you the guy who edited this stuff too. And hyperlink each author name. So, having done those things myself, I can feel like I'm in the clear. And if you plan to reproduce or publish stuff this way, you should too. So that's one particular example of how to give credit under one very particular license codes released under. There exist, a broad variety of licenses out there, and it's an exciting subject. But be at least mindful and in general lawful when you are dealing with taking code from other folks. Okay, having given you a whole lot of talking and not a whole lot of code, let's go ahead and make use of that material from Stack Overflow that we found. We are defining a class which subclasses HTML parser. We will get into the nitty-gritty on that in later videos. And we're defining a function down here that will strip the tags off of this HTML. So all we'll need to do is make use of that strip tags function. And go ahead and pass that function the HTML from each step in the directions from previously. I saved my file. Let's pop open PowerShell and see what it gives us this time. All right, and when we run it, look at what we get. Head northeast on West 7th Street. Next thing you know, we have that Coors back into Atlanta. So this looks much better than what we had previously. Big improvement. So there's 2 steps left. And those would be to make this take input so that it can give us directions from any one place to any other, and to make it right to a text file so that we can have the directions somewhere that we can change them, use them, move them, print them, do that kind of stuff. So appreciate you sticking with me. This is Ed from mybringback. Glad we got to spend some time talking about the important subjects of code attribution and being at least circumspect about your security when borrowing stuff online. Please continue to watch these videos. In the next one, we will wrap up this script, and in further videos, we will visit the topics that I've teased so far.